Dungeons & Dragons. A classic tabletop RPG where one of the main appeals for many players is the endless customization available to them and their characters. And this aspect tends to attract two extremes. The first being people who meticulously craft their character's backstory and appearance with some kind of thematic build to match. And the other being people who aggressively power game to make their characters objectively the strongest and always make the correct play no matter what the situation is. Today I wanted to focus on the latter. There are many min-max character builds and optimized meta strats. Many of them have been covered to death. Also, a lot of these tend to rely on shaky at best interpretations of the rules to achieve their broken results and could probably be called oversights or exploits. However, to their credit, these ones do tend to be pretty funny. There is one of these builds that I've noticed gets significantly less attention by the community, and if I had to guess why, it would probably be because it's for the older 3.5 edition instead of the current 5e. It also requires you to get a character all the way to level 12 in order to pull it off. And that build's called the Locate City Nuke.
He said it!
Veteran players will recognize it just from the name alone, but newer players almost certainly won't. Because at first glance, your character just seems like a normal, generic human sorcerer with spells and feats that are picked seemingly at random. These spells and feats, however, all tend to build off of each other in some way, creating a deadly spiral of effects. Let's take a look and make a rough walkthrough if we want to recreate it, shall we? Now, like I said earlier, you need to play a human sorcerer. The reason why you need human is because sorcerer does not give access to feats in 3.5e, whereas human as your race, you will get one for free at first level. The feat you need to take first is called snowcasting. It's a feat which allows you to add snow or ice as a material component to a spell, which adds the cold damage type to the spell if it already didn't have it. 3.5e also has a mechanic where various feats and metamagic abilities also let you upcast the spell by a level or two for free whenever you use them. These all tend to scale together, by the way, and snowcasting is one of these feats, allowing you to effectively upcast a spell by one level. Next, you need to take the metamagic ability Flash Frost spell. Flash Frost spell can only be used on spells that use the cold descriptor and have an AoE aspect to them. This has a couple of benefits. First, it gives an extra 2 damage per spell level when used on a cold spell, and then it also covers the spell's area in ice, requiring creatures to make reflex saves to not fall prone. This also gives you another free spell level for upcasting. Now for the next step, you need 2 metamagic abilities, but one of them is just a prerequisite for the other that you won't be using. Those 2 abilities are Energy Substitution and, more importantly, Energy Admixture, which allows you to add 1 of 4 additional energy types to your spell. This not only doubles the damage of the spell, adding the second damage type to it, but it also allows you to cast the spell for 4 levels higher than if you were to cast it without the ability. Since our spell will already have the cold descriptor on it, we'll be taking electric so that way we can use the next metamagic feat, Born of the Three Thunders. This ability allows us to declare a spell that uses either electric or sonic damage as a spell of the Three Thunders, which splits the damage type between electric and sonic damage. This also creates a thunderclap that the enemy creature must succeed a saving throw on to not be stunned, and then another saving throw to not be knocked prone if they failed the first one. Now this does have a downside, as casting a 3 Thunder spell will leave you dazed for 1 round, but such power does come at a cost. Also, this won't matter whatsoever. This brings us to our final metamagic ability, Explosive Spell. Explosive Spell applies to any spell that requires a reflex save, and upon failure, the target in the spell's area is violently thrown to the nearest edge, taking 1d6 damage per 10 feet traveled. Now, if the target would hit an object in that area that would reasonably stop them from being thrown further, they take an additional 1d6 damage from being hit, as well as the damage that they took from traveling that distance. Also, they're made prone by this, and this gives you 2 extra free levels for upcasting. Now we have all these effects, which gives massive damage boost to spells that have an area of effect, and the larger the area, the better. Now, which spell could we use that gives us the largest AoE? Well, Locate City, of course. Locate City does exactly what the name suggests. It tells you the distance and direction of the nearest city or settlement within the given parameters. It obviously does no damage and is pretty much useless in combat. For every other character, it's pretty useless, except for us, because its range. Its area of effect is 10 miles per level cast. Now currently, if we were to cast this at the lowest cost available to us, our fates would make this spell all the way up to level 8. However, with some tweaking to this build, and I'm going to be skipping over it because it's a lot, it's possible for us to get to level 12 or beyond. With being upcast all the way to level 12, you can have the spell have a spell save DC of 25, and that's for both the Fortitude and Reflex save, which most living things are going to fail both of those. And now that brings us to the damage. Now, assuming you're casting this at level 12, that means that there's a range of 120 miles from you, or in other terms, 633,600 feet. Now, for a poor creature caught in the middle of this, it could potentially go the entire distance without hitting an obstacle, resulting in a whopping 63,360 d6 damage just from explosive spell alone. Now, going 120 miles without encountering a single obstacle does seem pretty unrealistic, so let's go for a much more reasonable half a mile. Reminder, 1 mile is 5,280 feet. This still leaves us with 2,640 feet, or 264 d6 damage just from traveling. So that's still pretty lethal. Now, you may also assume that this is a sacrificial move, right? As there's no way to avoid an explosion you cast and is completely centered around yourself. But this isn't always the case. Remember earlier when we covered that an obstacle will stop a creature's movement? Well, you can use this to your advantage and do this for pretty much nothing. Just cast a spell with your back to a wall and you'll take only 1d6 damage from the initial collision. For best results though, you might want to use this in a closet or some kind of crowded room because you might get your cardinal directions wrong and accidentally turn yourself into paste. And that's how you can turn yourself into a bomb that can single-handedly level a country. Fair warning, if your DM even allows you to pull this off, they will hate you forever for destroying every country and person that they have prepared for your campaign. That being said, go out and have fun. Also, thank you for watching this. I might do more in the future, so feel free to subscribe.